Welcome to the Harmony Channel. I'm Jason Whitlock. Thank you for joining me. Happy Thursday to you and yours. Let me welcome in Professor Delano Squires. You guys know Delano Squires. You guys know Kevin Donahue, our CIA agent that appears on Harmony from time to time. And of course, you know the First Lady of the Fearless Army, Shemeka Michelle. Guys, I wanted to bring you on and just say hello first because you're going to kick back for a couple of minutes for this first story and watch this video, and it's going to take 3 or 4 minutes to unpack this video. But there's been a gentleman, and I don't even know what state this is in, but I think the guy's name is Anthony McNeil Jr. He gets pulled over by the police. He shuts his door and locks it, gets a tiny bit argumentative. Eventually they smash in his the windshield and punch him in the face on 2 different occasions. And it's become the latest cause celeb that Ben Crump has gotten involved in. And so the first thing I want to do is play the clip of what happened with McNeil Jr. here. And I think this is 3 or 4 minutes of content. And then I'll show you Ben Crump and how they're trying to cash in. But let's first play the tape.
Yeah, Florida 24 Bravo Echo Charlie Whiskey on a silver Kia. I don't know how this.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why you're popping the door open like that?
I don't have a window that works. Is there a reason that you're pulling me over?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why I'm pulling you over. For one thing, inclement weather, you don't have your lights on. 2 things, you're not wearing your seatbelt.
It's daylight. I don't need the lights. And it's not weather. It's not raining.
Oh, this is inclement?
It's not raining.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you why I'm pulling you over. Give me your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
No, call your supervisor. Why?
Excuse me?
Call your supervisor. Why did you pull me over?
77, 35. I'm cooperative driver. I've already told you.
Why did you pull me over?
Step out of the vehicle.
No.
Step out of the vehicle. 25 seconds. For the 94, the driver just slammed the door and locked it. Yep. 25 seconds. If anybody responding, come in from Commonwealth, block the vehicle, please. Keep your hands where I can see them, sir. My camera's on too. I've already told you. Okay. Okay. Right now you're under arrest for resisting. You understand? You're under arrest for resisting. The longer you take us on, the worse it's going to be. Keep your hands where I can see them, sir. Okay. Sir, this is your last warning to open the vehicle and exit before we're going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window.
Well, we're conducting a traffic stop right now. You need to.
No, he's under arrest.
Hey, I'll out the car. I'm going to push it up.
Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting.
Can you unlock the door and step out? I will. Can you step out? You're being done. There's a traffic stop being conducted. You're required to comply.
Vehicle's locked in.
Yes.
He's locked it up. He's putting the window down.
Correct.
I tried to talk to
Huh? Okay. So what did he ask for when he I guess,
When he pulled me over, he walked up, opened my door because my window don't work, right? And then I said, so what I did wrong?
Yeah.
He said,
well, for one, your headlights are off under this weather. I'm like, there's multiple people headlights off.
Okay, that's still
and then there's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Hey,
Can you call your supervisor?
Huh?
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle! Show me your hands.
Here.
1033 at 16.1 hours.
What is your reason, sir? What is your reason?
Step out now. All right.
Put your hands up!
all right. So now we have more complete context. I believe Anthony William McNeil Jr., I believe is this guy's name, and this is in Jacksonville, Florida. I believe he put out an edited video that basically showed him in the car, police smashing the window in, and him getting punched in the face. Here's where I will agree with McNeil Jr. I don't get why they pulled him over. It's daylight, and this seems like an unlawful stop. I don't think you can see through the tinted glass and see that he has his seatbelt off. This is just a cop going on instinct. If I'm to believe what I'm seeing, it's just going off instinct and it's an unlawful stop. And I get why you would have some initial questioning. I wouldn't then shut my door and lock it and then try to argue this thing out like, hey, this is the people's court and we're going to do it right here on the sidewalk. The conspiracy nut job in me, the tinfoil hat in me, it's like, hey, who's in on this setup? Is this cop in on this setup? Are they setting up a lawsuit? And this happened in February of 2025. And so, this is conspiracy nut job in me. Like, are the cop and McNeil Jr. in on this together? And at some point, they're going to bring Ben Crump into this, and there's going to be a lawsuit because none of this made sense. You're going to comply by pulling over when they're pulling you over for no reason. And then you're not going to comply when he says, step out of the car or show me your driver's license. And I believe on the other side of this, he may not have had a driver's license. There was some sort of knife in the car, and there may have been some sort of marijuana paraphernalia in the car. So I don't get why the cop pulled him over, and I think that's problematic and real problematic because they shouldn't just be able to pull you over just you ain't got your lights on and there's a light rain and it looks like it's 3 or 4 in the afternoon and it's cloudy. Give me a break. I don't think the cop that pulled up, he had his flashing lights going, but as soon as he cut off the flasher, I don't think that cop that pulled up had his lights on. Anyway, I don't understand why the guy didn't cooperate, and then why, if this weren't some sort of setup, just on McNeil's part, who knows if the police were, if a cop were in on the two and they're all planning on cutting up this $3 million settlement they get from Jacksonville or whatever they end up getting up. But I've never seen anyone sit calmly, not that I've seen a lot, but when a windshield gets busted in, you have no movement. When you get punched in the face, you have no movement, no reaction. This thing feels orchestrated and inorganic to me. Shemeka, I'm going to let you fire first. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jason, about the stop. I drive a Mercedes, but I don't have any tint on my windows. I have a lead foot. I've never been stopped in that car, but every time I have been stopped, it was driving a car that had tint. So I would think maybe the officer said, okay, I have somebody with tint. Let's see what I get if I go fishing. And I didn't like the fact that they actually hit him. Other than that, he was not cooperating. And I just thought it was silly. It could have been avoided. I actually got pulled this past Saturday for expired registration. I wasn't driving my car and I got pulled over. The officer just, pulled me over, asked me, where I was coming from. I told him. He asked for my license. I gave it to him. Then he saw that I had a gun on the front seat. He asked, was that my gun? I said, yes. He ran my license, I guess. There was nothing to see. He let me go. It was very easy. I complied. There was no back and forth. I was on the phone, on speakerphone. He never said hang up the phone or anything. It was very easy, breezy, and cool. So I feel like this guy could have just complied, given his license and registration, and gone on about his way. If it's not, as you said, some type of conspiracy and they're in on it together, what was all of this for? I just didn't understand.
Delano?
Yeah, well, one, Jason, I hope you don't start giving police officers and civil rights lawyers ideas about how to concoct conspiracies to to shake down cities out of millions of dollars. I think that would be the biggest surprise if this was some orchestrated conspiracy. That aside, to your point, me and my friends would talk about this often, growing up in New York and coming into contact with NYPD every once in a while, that the street is where the cops rule. That's their courthouse. They are undefeated on the street. So if they have intent on giving you a citation or a warning or a ticket or affecting arrest, it is going to happen. The question is whether it's going to happen easy or whether it's going to be the easy way or the hard way. And I think, McNeil chose the hardest way possible for this interaction to go down. Now, to your point, the punch in the face, the breaking the window looks bad, is bad optics, on the police's part. And yeah, again, pulling somebody over for not having lights on during the daytime, a lot of people would probably take issue with that. But once you're pulled over and the officer, asks you to give your license and registration, most thinking people would just say, okay, I'll give my license and registration. Or if I don't have it, cop to it. But everything he did in that video made that interaction 10 times worse than it needed to be. And I'm not surprised sort of by the outcome. Now, I'll say this. I can hear some of my libertarian friends saying, man, you guys are just bootlickers and, the police have no right to stop you and, this type of thing. And there's some people who feel that way. But again, once you get pulled over, how you interact with the officers in that traffic stop is largely going to dictate how it goes down. And for all the people who say that black parents have the quote unquote the talk with their kids, something must not be getting through, because I don't know any parent who would tell their child, even an adult child, to behave this way, in the course of a stop. Because Jason, when the police officer walked to the car, he swung the door open and he was willing to talk. Then when the police officers wanted to speak to him more, he closed the door and said, no, I'm not going to open the door anymore. So again, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And this guy seems to have gotten a gold medal on how to not interact with the police. Kevin?
There's a few things going on here. One is modern policing, cops have been militarized. They get the military surplus. I mean, there's several tanks around Nashville. I left a Titans game one time and there was 2 counter snipers coming out of the woods in full camo gear with sniper rifles at a football game. That's one. Number two is the internet and body cams have changed everything. Like, this isn't Andy Griffith and Barney Fife anymore, right? This is a militarized organization, and some people even say road pirates. Like, what are the cops doing? If you notice, the one cop who pulled up, he didn't have his lights on either, right? If it's such a terrible offense, why aren't the cops following the laws as well? And we know there's justice for thee, but not for me within these police circles. So there's that. The other piece is there's a whole entire industry now on YouTube, and it's called First Amendment auditors. And these guys have trained people on constitutionality, one, and B, sort of how to bully cops with a camera. And I don't want to say bully cops, because they're basically confronting police, and they're basically challenging them to arrest them by doing things in public that aren't illegal. And it's an industry. And so while I don't think there's a two-part conspiracy here of the cops, colluding with the gentleman behind the wheel. But I do think, hey, a cop pulled me over. This might be a payday for me. This might be my opportunity. Let me put my my phone on record, which I think everyone should do anyway. You should always record the police in every interaction because they have the authority to arrest you, to beat you, and kill you. They have legal authority to do these things. So we have to protect ourselves. So I think it was smart for him to do that. And then also he beat the cops to the punch by putting out this video that showed him, it looked like he was a victim. I believed it. That was the first time I saw the full video when you just showed it of the police. The guy who went to the driver's side door, he was kind. He was helpful. You know, he was saying, hey man, here's what happened. Just get out of the car. And so at that point, he should have complied, gotten out of the car, talking to the cops. And so what I'm saying here is the cops did take it too far, in my opinion. It looked like they gave him a good beating once he got out of the car. And like Delano said, they're the gangs on that street. Those are their streets. You're not going to win that battle. You're not going to outshoot the cops. You're not going to outfight the cops. They're going to call all their buddies like you saw, and they're going to show up. And asking for a supervisor is also, you'll see that a lot because of YouTube, right? These First Amendment auditors, can I speak to your supervisor? And it looked like the cop called for a supervisor as soon as he asked for one. So, you know, there's two to blame here. I think the cops took it too far, it looked like. I mean, did they really have to break out the window? I mean, was he that much of a threat or a danger? And then to say he had a knife in his car, so what? You're allowed to have a knife in your car. You know, he didn't pull it out to use it against them. He was actually peacefully protesting to a degree, right? So
hold for 1 second, Kevin. Let me defend the cops in this regard. Okay. What are they going to, they just let him go? The guy shut the door. His windows are tinted. Maybe he's got a baby that he's kidnapping or killed in the backseat of the car. You know, he's got these tinted windows. Tinted windows raise eyebrows, just quite frankly. And yeah, it keeps you cooler. Maybe you don't have to run your air conditioner or whatever. I don't know. But, you know, if you let him go and then he's killed someone or he's on his way to kill someone or you've let go of someone. Well, you just had him pulled over 15 minutes ago and you let him go and he did X, Y, and Z. The point where I do agree, it's a conspiracy of one, or maybe it is a conspiracy of two, but it's not involving a cop. From what my understanding is, and I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, I think this guy's dad is in jail right now or in prison right now or has been in and out of prison. And that behavior, not that I've been incarcerated, but I've known people that have, the way he just behaved with that cop is how people deal with their corrections officers a lot of times inside of a jail or prison.
Well, let me be fair to the cop as well.
Excuse me?
Well, let me be fair to the cop as well. They warned him about 20 times that they were going to break his window. It wasn't a surprise. So they said, if you don't do this, we're going to break your windows. We're going to get you out of the car. So, you know, that's the cops did tell him. So.
Yeah. And so, again, people that have been institutionalized, and I'm not saying this guy, but I've read that his dad, and maybe this guy has a bit of a record. But, you know, you get uncooperative with the COs and you push it to the limit, and because you got a little bit more power in a prison. The correctional officers are afraid of the inmates almost in equal measure as you're afraid of the correctional. Anyway, there's some equality there in prison. They can get at you in prison even as a correctional officer. But anyway, let me play the clip of the real. They're calling this the ghetto lottery. You've hit the lottery when Ben Crump shows up and takes your case on, and he's done so here. They had a press conference yesterday. Let's play the clip.
First of all, I want to thank God for bringing everybody here together, and thank y'all for supporting me. That day, I just really wanted to know, why I was getting pulled over and why I needed to step out the car when I know I didn't do nothing wrong. I was really just scared. And that's it.
This was a classic case of driving while black. And I applaud William McNeil for keeping his demeanor, his calmness. I mean, Attorney Daniels, I thought the trained police officers were supposed to be the ones to de-escalate the matter. They were the ones escalating the matter while this young man represented the best of us. He kept calm. He was trying to de-escalate the matter. He just kept asking simply, why are you stopping me? I mean, think about that. I understand the sheriff said anti-police. No, no, no. It's not anti-police when an American citizen asks, why are you stopping me? That is an American citizen exercising his constitutional rights. That's what William was doing. He was exercising his constitutional rights.
Ben Crump there, barely able to articulate. Whoever gave Ben Crump his law degree, I would love to enroll at that school. I'd be a straight A magna cum laude student. I'm able to speak the language clearly. I mean, but Ben Crump holding this press conference, he's basically messaging to other guys like, hey, you're broke, unemployed, got a little criminal record, disagree with the cops. He's promoting this guy's behavior of, hey, disagree with the cops, don't cooperate with them, just keep asking them over and over and over again why you pulled me over, and Ben Crump will show up and we'll cash in together. That seems like that's the only messaging I heard here, other than also that guy is William McNeil, Anthony William McNeil, whatever his name. He's prison ready. He's got his feminized hairstyle, and so he looked like Betty Rubble or Barney Rubble. I can't remember. Shemeka, your thoughts on the press conference?
Yeah, so I did not think he represented the best of us. And I do feel like you have the right to ask why you're pulled over if the officer hadn't said anything, but the officer answered his question. He didn't like what the officer said and went on to say, give me the supervisor. You know, I feel like if he really wanted to argue the reasons that he was pulled over, you get home safely and then you do that at another time. I think I saw where the chief or someone said he never filed a formal complaint. It wasn't until he released this video that they understood he had a problem. So I think if you really had an issue, you would have done your due diligence to file a complaint after this stop was over or after as you were fighting these charges. And I just think Ben Crump, he's an ambulance chaser. He goes after money, and I guess he feels like he can win some money for this young man and for himself. And it's a joke. I just don't think that he responded in the correct way, and this should not be an example for others to follow.
I did not know that he never filed a complaint so this is just Ben Crump on a fishing expedition and this guy on a fishing expedition. Delano?
Yeah, I agree with Shemeka. When Ben Crump said he represents the best of us, I mean, I almost fell out of my seat. This is not, that's not what I got from that interaction. And I mean, to some extent, Crump is right? Like, as an American citizen, you have a right to ask the police, why did you stop me? Now, typically, they will tell you why they stopped you. And Jason, I remember this was years ago, probably over 10 years ago, when I was, living in Maryland. I just left my apartment complex. Police pulled me over. I pulled into, a little shopping center, and I thought they were on a fishing expedition, right? So what I did, I took my ticket. The following Monday, because this was a local town police, I went to the police station and I asked to speak to somebody in charge, supervisor, lieutenant, whatever. And I told them the situation, the circumstances. I never made any accusations about the intentions of the police. I didn't say that, this was driving while black. I just wanted an explanation. He said they stopped me for having my brake light was out. And I said, When I got to the drive-through that night, I asked the person as I pulled up, "Hey, tell me if my brake light is out." And they said, "No, it's working fine." So the Monday morning comes and I ask, and he says, he gets in the car, he taps on the brake light, and he says, "Look, now I was looking at a different light on the back of the car, and in fact my brake light was out." And he gave me the explanation, and I went on about my business. I didn't reach out to the local NAACP branch or the Urban League and accuse them of nefarious conduct. So I do think obviously that American citizens have rights, but again, there are certain places that make sense to have these battles. And as Shemeka said, to me, the most important thing is getting home safely. And you don't know who you're interacting with on the street. In the same way, the police don't know who they are interacting with on the street. And I'm sure all of us have probably seen at least or heard of, police officers getting injured or harmed or killed during traffic stops. So I just think this entire thing was so poorly handled. And sure, if you want to argue that on the police side, that's fine. But for myself, my first obligation is to get home safely to my family. And that individual, McNeil, did not look like somebody who was scared. He looked like somebody who said, I'm going to do what I want to do in this interaction, and let the police do what they do, and then we'll see who's right. And last thing I'll say is this, and I know particularly for Shemeka, I think she'll understand when I say this. I'm not likening the relationship between police and citizens to that between parents and children. But what I will say is when you are someone who has authority and has the God-given mandate to wield authority, that when the people who are under your authority choose to not comply or to rebel or to buck or whatever word you want to use, it typically doesn't make you say, "Oh, well, okay, you just go on, little Jimmy. If you want to throw a tantrum in the grocery store and I tell you to get up 16 times, you say, 'No, I'm not getting up. I'm little Jimmy. I could do what I want.'" Okay, we'll see how that's going to work out. Now, some parents, Jason, to your point, will leave little Jimmy and then they'll do their shopping. They'll come back and they'll say, "Okay, are you ready to go home now?" And other parents will say, "Get the belt out or the switch or the hand or the comb or whatever and put the Board of Education to the seat of understanding." And little Jimmy will be walking out there holding his backside and wondering why his mom or dad treated him that way. And I think that's one of the things that people don't understand, is that the police have authority on the street. And if you want to have that fight, some of them are going to have that fight and they're going to relish it. Maybe that's what McNeil got on this day, but I certainly wouldn't advise that to my kids.
Kevin, I'm going to give you the final thought. I will add just very quick. I saw Brandon Tatum's explanation of this, and Brandon Tatum argued pretty persuasively that the use of force was lawful. It may not be pretty, but it was lawful. Kevin, you get the final thought.
Yeah, I think that's true. And my mom used the fly swatter a number of times when I was acting up. But I have my compliments to Ben Crump. I mean, he has gotten really good. His ability to use theater. They were at St. Paul's Church. They started this press conference with prayer. Ben Crump, his cadence has gotten really good. I mean, he has become the guy to go to. I mean, it's like, he don't have to chase ambulances. Ambulances are chasing him. Victims are chasing him. So he's done a really good job. They won't win this case if it goes to in front of a jury or whatever. They'll probably settle and they'll each make a few bucks, just because the cost of fighting this in court will cost the city of Jacksonville or wherever the city is a lot of money. So, but it really is interesting to watch the theater play out, these press conferences with the family members and everything, and drumming up the sympathy. And I think, Jason, this is probably where you were like, is this a conspiracy? This is too set up to be real, And so yeah, like Ben Crump has carved out a niche for his law practice. He and he does a really good job. He wears the right suit. He says the right words. He knows what he's doing. I remember his first case when he was on national television. Like, who is this guy? And he wasn't good, but he's gotten good, which, good being a relative word here. But yeah, Jason, I agree with you. I think the use of force here wasn't unlawful. I think the cops did what they had to do. I think we all have stories where we've been pulled over and have, feel it was unjust or whatever, but we always have to comply. When I get pulled over by the cops, I roll down all of my windows. When they come up and approach my door, they can see everything. I got my hands on the wheels, you know, it's like there is a certain way to behave when someone has authority. And when you get pulled over, they have the authority over you. Your detainment is legal for a certain period of time. And so we do have to comply, and we really open ourselves to an ass kicking or whatever it may be if we don't comply, you know, especially if they warn us and we don't comply.
I'll end it with Philip Anthony Mitchell. Give Caesar what he's owed. Just comply. Let me move on to this second topic. I want to play you guys Jon Stewart, the alleged comedian with Comedy Central, upset about Stephen Colbert getting fired by CBS. Stephen Colbert said something about go F yourself to Trump or whatever. And so in trying to be clever after unleashing like a 10-minute monologue, trashing CBS and Donald Trump and everybody, then Jon Stewart transitions into a singing routine that involves what I believe to be a make-believe black church choir. Let's play the clip.
Go fuck yourself! 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 Wait, bring it down. Let's bring it down. Let it get quiet. Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Everybody! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Go fuck yourself! Go fuck yourself!
All right, so that's Jon Stewart, real name John Leibowitz. I believe he's changed his name. He's someone that rejects Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior and has no problem using a black gospel Christian tradition to do something this profane. And that was my reaction to it. I was like, hey, man, who are these black people playing this church role? Why John Leibowitz, Jon Stewart has a problem with CBS? What do we have to do with it? What's the black church have to do with this? And what type of the people that accepted whatever they got paid for this appearance? What are you doing? And I don't even care if maybe you reject Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior too, but why are we playing with God? Has the culture really gotten this out of control that everything about Christianity is just a joke to the people that reject Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior? And why are we tolerating it? It really annoyed me that Jon Stewart did this, and there will be no blowback. I know that if I did on this show, if I did something to mock the Jewish faith, I'd be off the air. Period. I don't even know if I'd be allowed to finish the next sentence. But you can just tear into us. You can just tear into Jesus Christ using us. Very frustrating, disappointing for me. Delano, your thoughts?
Yeah, Jason, I said on X that you were probably the only person who I saw comment on this whose visceral reaction was the same as mine, right? Which was, who are these black folk? And this is not the first time Stewart has done this. He did this a few years ago when he was saying, go F yourself to Fox News, and it was the same setup. He had like 5 black people and 1 white person. And I'm like, who are these people who would allow themselves to be used in this way? And so many people, when they think about black conservatives, they say, oh, you guys are coons and sellouts. I mean, this couldn't have been any worse if they had put cork on their skin, right? If they had done it in blackface and they did the man hands and they jumped around and had a watermelon rind in their mouth, right? That's how so much of a caricature that they were playing. So I was equally frustrated when I saw this. Disgusted actually is a better word. I will say this though. You brought up Jon Stewart and the fact that he's Jewish. And I'm sure many people will see this and say, see, this is the same thing that hip hop execs Jewish hip hop execs do with rap, where they promote certain ideas that they would never allow for themselves. And I think that is an accurate assessment. I always come down on a different side, though, which is to say, I blame the people who allow themselves to be used to push filth, destruction, and degeneracy. There will always be somebody offering you money to compromise your values and your morals. Sometimes they'll look like you, sometimes they won't. But somebody's always going to be there to do it. But when you accept the money, that's when I say, oh yeah, that person's not somebody who I could ever be around, because I don't like being around people who are infected with the sellout spirit. And when I see particularly black folks put on the church, because they could have just sung the song without the robes. The use of the robes, the genre of music, right? The entire theatrical display was one meant to draw on the moral authority, the supposed moral authority of the black church and the black church, the traditional sort of black church experience. And that moral authority is then used to deliver a highly partisan message of rejection towards Donald Trump. And I actually think that represents where many of the most particularly left-leaning progressive black churches are, right? They're willing to use the moral authority that comes sort of with the history of the black church, specifically for progressive partisan political ends. And it, to me, is one of the more frustrating and disgusting things out there on the political scene.
Shemeka?
Yeah, when I saw it, someone sent it to me on IG, and that was what I thought as well. Who are these black people that signed up for this? It just really irritates me that we're always looking for a way to be degenerate, a way to actually just put ourselves on display for stupidity. I don't think you would have seen this, them pretending to be Catholic and singing, "Go fuck yourself." We would not have seen that. But black people just signed up to actually mock the so-called black church or mock gospel. And I think, like Delano is saying, it was to make it seem as if black people and the black church, they are against Donald Trump and everything that he stands for. And if you don't agree with this, then you must be the sellout or the coon. They would never say these people are the sellout who is actually selling out Christ. But I have to go back to be not deceived. God is not mocked. So they can do all of this if they want to, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So they'll pay for this.
Kevin, you don't have to linger long if you don't want to, but if you got something you want to add in, go ahead.
Well, yeah, first of all, the whole premise of this was ridiculous. It was to protest Stephen Colbert getting fired. I mean, the whole thing, I was like, what? The guy's not funny. His show's over. That's what happens in show business. And it just goes to show you these late night shows are just propaganda machines. They use comedy to be able to slip in stuff. And that, I would say, that was a flopped comedy bit. I didn't find it funny at all. But, they use comedy to kind of sneak all this stuff in. And I think that's what we're dealing with here. Like, why is even Stephen Colbert, I can't believe the guy still has a show. And why does everyone care? I really couldn't understand the premise of it all. And to have the folks in the gospel choir singing behind him, cursing, I thought it was just ridiculous.
Finally, let's move on to the story of yesterday and still today, or even the past week. But now that I think the story is the Department of Justice has told Donald Trump that he's in the Epstein files. I don't know what that really means. I think we've kind of assumed he was probably in the Epstein files in some degree. But the whole inference that Trump is covering up the Epstein files because he's in it in a super negative way, I'm not sure if I buy. I'm frustrated and disappointed that Donald Trump is attempting to cover up the whole Epstein deal. And so I'm bothered by that. But this report that, hey, he's in the Epstein files. I don't think that shocks anyone. It feels like a lot of elites, and particularly elites that have any political motives, are in the Epstein files. Kevin, it's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on today. I was hoping you could make sense of what do you think is going on here as it relates to the Epstein files and Donald Trump?
Well, this is clearly an espionage honeypot scam. I think we all know that at this point. And, it's Jeffrey Epstein. It's not Billy O'Brien. It's not the Irish that have put on this, this scam and this honeypot. And so, Donald Trump's in a tough position, but he has to release these files. I mean, I tell people they're not government files, they're our files, right? The government is we the people. In fact, I was part of a project years ago in the early 2000s. It was governmentdocs.org, and it was a Freedom of Information Act, almost like a Wikipedia for Freedom of Information Act documents. It was built originally by an organization called CREW, which stands for Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, which was a left-leaning think tank, and they were exposing all these documents really to pin Bush, right? They wanted to kind of get Bush in a gotcha moment. And as soon as Obama got in office, the website, governmentdocs.org, faded away. They didn't want to have the same access to these documents to folks. But we, the people, should have access to all of these documents. They're our documents. These things relate to our government and our business. So why Trump isn't releasing him when he promised he would, who knows? He's not just covering for himself. He's covering for other people in his administration. All these people. We're dealing with the uniparty here, right? I think the facade of Republican, Democrat, right, left, yeah, there's certainly differences. But we're looking at Trump is the uniparty leader at this point. He has to protect all of these folks. He said it when he ran for president. I know because I give money to both sides, So, Trump's been Democrat, he's been Republican. He's the face of MAGA and MAHA. But without the Epstein files being released, I think it was the biggest fumble I've seen in my lifetime as far as a political person goes. And he needs to release them, whether his name's in it or not.
Shemeka, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. He definitely needs to release the files. I'm hesitant to think that he's in there in some type of, nefarious way, simply because I think if that was the case, they would have prevented him from getting in office to start with everything else that they were trying to bring against him. I think if they had a smoking gun in those Epstein files, that we would have heard about it a long time ago. But maybe, I'm one of these people that they say, you're in a cult, because I am feeling very QAnon, like trust the process. I'm thinking maybe he's playing the long game. He's playing chess, not checkers. But I do think he has to release those files and let the people decide for themselves how they feel about it, but they definitely need to be released.
Delano, I'll give you the final say.
Yeah, I mean, this entire Epstein affair is one of the reasons why I think it's a mistake for people to have their entire world wrapped up in politics, because your favorite politician will say one thing one day and you'll, yes, oh yeah. And then they'll just change their mind the next day. And then you'll have to pivot with him or her. So there was a lot of talk about, the Epstein files and getting to the bottom of what happened to Jeffrey Epstein prior to the election. And then now all of a sudden it's, why are we still talking about, the president's asking, why are we still talking about this? It's no big deal. I don't take anything from the fact that his name is in the files, because the Epstein files is different. I think about that different than if somebody says, we have a client list of people who, are connected to Jeffrey Epstein because, he supplied underage girls to them for the purposes of, sexual activity. Now that's very different. And I don't care who it is, whether it's Trump, Obama, Clinton, Bush, whoever it is. I'm not going to be the person to promote an idea that just because somebody's name is tied to another person, that means that they're guilty of a particular crime. So the heavier the charge, the heavier the evidence. I will say this: the longer the president, who ran partly on this issue, the longer he refuses to release, the full sort of bevy of documents and information, I think the louder the calls are going to come, not only for him to do it, but the calls or the inferences that he is in some way implicated in this entire affair. So I think he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I will say this to respond to one of the things that Shemeka brought up, and I think a lot of people bring this up. Well, if Democrats had the goods on Trump, then they would have released it a long time ago. And I think that makes sense unless releasing it on him would implicate a bunch of people who they don't want to be implicated. So at a certain point, you say, you know what? I like my face. I'm not going to cut off my nose. And, you know, maybe we can get Trump a different way so we don't have to release this through the lawfare, through, you know, some of the phony cases. But I think the longer he waits on this, the worse it's going to get for him and for his administration.
Thank you, lady and gentlemen. I've got some additional thoughts on this that I don't want to connect to these guys. So thank you guys, but to give me 5 more minutes just to put some clarity on my thoughts here. Listen, the reason why Donald Trump and the Epstein files and Donald Trump. So there's Epstein files, as Delano's talking about, and then there's client list, as Delano's talking about. I think the use of the word client list is wrong or a distraction as well. I'm not sure if Jeffrey Epstein had a client list. Jeffrey Epstein was a party thrower, again, as Kevin said, it's a honey trap. He just creates the environment. And then if you've watched any of these documentaries, if he gets you over to Epstein Island, he's got everything, every inch of that island is being videoed and filmed. And so he just creates an environment for wealthy people, guys that like the P word, to come over and be immoral, and then he captures them on tape. And so I don't know if he had a client list as much as he's like, yeah, he's the guy you want to socialize with and party with. And if you look at Trump and who Trump has represented himself to be throughout the years, Donald Trump likes beautiful women, and he seems to like young women. And so I want to sit here in all honesty and transparency and say, people could make the exact same argument about me. Oh, Jason Whitlock likes beautiful women and he likes young women. And if you're Donald Trump and a billionaire and running around in these circles where Jeffrey Epstein and Jeffrey Epstein's the guy that throws parties with young, beautiful women. And if you're an idiot or if you're really immoral, you don't care how young they are. Maybe you're Prince Andrews. And I think the accusation on him is with some 16, 17-year-old girl or whatever. But I say all that to say, if someone were to examine, and this is, again, I'm nowhere near what the allegations are around Jeffrey Epstein. But if someone just looked at my former friends and guys that I still have warm feelings toward, it was shady as hell. And there, again, you guys have heard me talk about the podcast I used to do called Real Talk. And I used to have a guy that we called Strip Club Rick. It's a friend of mine. Strip Club Rick, he'd come on my podcast and he'd talk about strip clubs in Las Vegas. Rick lived out in Las Vegas. And he'd talk about strip clubs and where you could go, what strip clubs to go to that got the best girls who may do a little extra in the champagne room. And so I'm just would come on my Real Talk podcast, and that says something about me. It does. And that's why I repent and I talk about it. And I'm trying to advise other men, young boys, don't make the mistakes that I made. Don't do it. It's a mistake. And so Donald Trump, and trying to say this without, because I'm not defensive. I'm not saying this out of any defensiveness, because I've copped to and repented for and basically have shared with you all my mistakes. And But yeah, I was someone I went to the Playboy Mansion twice. And Hugh Hefner, go watch the documentaries on him. Go watch what is said, transpired, the Grotto and Hugh Hefner parties and all that. And so when I would hear stories like Bill Cosby used to love to hang out at the Playboy Mansion, well, I was like, I know what that's about. That's about access to young, beautiful women with loose morals. And so when I hear they got pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, well, do the math. And so Donald Trump very well could be in the Epstein files without, and maybe he was into underage girls. I don't know. But being friends with Jeffrey Epstein, with his reputation, what he was involved in, it does say something about you. And there's no difference than me sitting here saying, because it wasn't just Strip Club Rick. I could name other guys that, out in Las Vegas. I've shared with you all the stories like that. I was having dinner with the Maloof brothers that owned, was it the Palms? What I can't remember the name of the casino they own, but they used to own the Sacramento Kings, and I used to be friendly with them. And I can remember one time we're out to dinner. There had to be 20 of us out to dinner, and there's this black dude in his 40s, 50s, dressed kind of crazy. He was a pimp, and this is someone that they ran around with and was his good friends. And yeah, again, I remember this dinner well. We drinks, and it was a great fun night. But this is who these powerful elites. And so if Jason Whitlock was friends with Strip Club Rick, and Rick used to come on my podcast and talk about the things that he talked about, it says something about me. And so that's what the advice I would give to Donald Trump, forget Donald Trump, every man, repent. Acknowledge your mistakes, pick up your cross, and follow Jesus Christ. It will all be forgiven. But if you try to keep these things in secret, it will all be used and leveraged against you. If we're going to fix this country, if we're ever going to really drain the swamp, if we're ever going to come out from underneath the control of this foreign influence and these surveillance agencies, whether it be the CIA, Mossad, or FBI, whatever, we have to live morally. We have to live righteously. I've been watching Andrew Tate and Matt Walsh go back and forth about marriage. And Andrew Tate doesn't want to live morally. He's trying to drive your kids straight into the arms of Satan. And Matt Walsh is sitting up there saying, no, man, marriage is a good thing and marriage is great. Marriage is the pursuit of holiness. And that's why I argue on this show and on Fearless all the time, like happiness, the pursuit of happiness, that's you and the devil cutting a deal. That's instant gratification. Andrew Tate's not man enough to pursue holiness. So he'll never repent. And he'll defend every bit of immorality, sexual immorality that men do. Can't fix this country if men will make no commitment to holiness, if we won't repent of our sins and our foolish ways and start picking up our cross and following God. So I don't know. I just wanted to get it off my, this whole Trump, Epstein files. Trump strikes me as someone early on in his early years clearly was sexually immoral. Was he unlawful? I don't know. But, he ran around with Jeffrey Epstein. That says something about Donald Trump. Let's be real. All right, that's all I got. Went a little long today. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.
How did we end up so divided? Stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall. God shine down.